In an era when the Arabian Peninsula had sunk into deep darkness due to idolatry and ignorance, Mecca, a small city in the heart of this land, had become a sacred and magnificent place. In this city stood a house where the one Lord was worshipped. This house was the Kaaba. But a bloodthirsty king, in his quest for greater power, marched with a mighty army, an army in which war elephants formed the core, toward the house of God, intending to destroy it. Yet he did not know what humiliating fate God had prepared for him. The Kaaba is the house of God, and God himself is its protector. Built by the command of God, through Prophet Abraham and his son Ishmael, the Kaaba was the symbol of God's oneness and the center of his worship. Every year, tribes from all across the Arabian Peninsula would come to Mecca to visit this holy sanctuary. At that same time, in a distant land, the heart of Abyssinia, there ruled a man named Abraha. Appointed as governor, Abraha had busied himself with construction in his court. But then, he took a strange and dangerous decision. Wishing to be recognized as the sole ruler of the region, he devised a shocking plan to demolish the Kaaba and build in its place a grand temple in Yemen. So people would abandon pilgrimage to the Kaaba and instead flock to his sanctuary. He gathered a vast army of thousands of soldiers, horsemen, and warriors. What made his forces especially fearsome were the elephants brought from India. These colossal beasts, used for the first time in battle, gave Abraha's army unimaginable power. The elephants, symbols of might and grandeur in warfare, were to be his instrument for destroying the Kaaba and magnifying his glory. From Abyssinia, Abraha's army advanced toward Mecca, ravaging everything in its path, tearing down trees, destroying crops, leaving desolation wherever it went. But before this powerful army stood the plan of the Lord of all worlds. This time, not through men, but through the heavens. God's decree would be carried out by flocks of small birds, known as Ababil. Yet Abraha, unaware of his wretched fate, stood among his troops, urging his ruthless commanders to spare no one and annihilate everything in their path. The news of Abraha's approaching army spread. Families clutched their children and fled. The marketplaces were abandoned, overturned. No one came to trade. Fearful and bewildered, people gazed anxiously toward Mecca, around the house of God. No one remained. Terrified, they turned to God alone, begging him to save them and their children from the cruelty of Abraha's mighty army. That drew ever closer. Now Abraha and his forces had reached the outskirts of Mecca. He gave the command for a savage assault upon the house of God, but it was time for him to taste the power of God. Suddenly, the skies darkened with dread. Terror swept into Abraha's camp. From above, the birds of Ababil appeared, innumerable, descending like clouds. In their beaks, they carried stones from the fires of hell, glowing, searing stones. With astonishing precision and swiftness, the birds hurled the stones down upon Abraha's soldiers. Each stone not only burned, but crushed its target, felling the enemies of God instantly. The elephants, once proud emblems of strength, trembled with fear. Overwhelmed with terror, they could not resist the heavenly assault. Once poised for battle, they now panicked and fled in chaos. No one could control them. The Ababil kept striking relentlessly, stone after stone, raining upon the army. Every soldier struck, collapsed, vanishing in mere moments. Helpless against this dreadful punishment, the army scattered in frantic flight. But no place offered safety from the divine wrath. The farther they ran, the more they fell. Countless soldiers perished. Abraha himself, though still alive, was struck with grievous wounds and infections. Exhausted and broken, he looked around in despair. His elephants ran wild, in fear and confusion. Nothing could save his forces. After the divine punishment descended, only a few survived, but even they bore terrible injuries, dying miserably soon after. Abraha himself, though spared immediate death, was left ravaged by wounds and disease so severe that he could not endure. At last, he died in torment. His name was preserved in history as a living example of defeat before the will of God. This event, remembered as the Year of the Elephant, Am al-Ful, became forever etched in history as one of God's great miracles. In the next video, we will tell the story of one who was cast into a well by his brothers, but whom God raised to become the honored ruler of Egypt. Prophet Joseph, peace be upon him,